The life and death of David Barksdale, the founder of Chicago's Black Disciples. Once a feared gang leader, King David Barksdale eventually pivoted to anti-violence activism and became an influential force in the American civil rights movement. Among the most influential figures in Chicago's gang history, David Barksdale founded the Black Disciples, a notorious street gang, when he was just a teenager. Over time, he gained his own reputation on Chicago's South Side as a strong and feared leader. In fact, some said that his presence was so imposing that just looking at him could send shivers up your spine. But although Barksdale started out leading a gang entrenched in violent disputes with other gangs, he eventually realized that the violence was endangering Chicago's black communities. So he pivoted to anti-violence activism, using his ability to connect with people to form alliances with other local gangs in an attempt to stem the violence. Until his untimely death in 1974, Barksdale led the Black Disciples Nation to be a leading force in both Chicago neighborhoods and in the civil rights movement that swept the United States in the late 1960s, channeling his gang's resources to help improve the lives of Chicago's black communities. David Barksdale was born Donies David Barksdale in Salis, Mississippi on May 24, 1947. His parents, Virginia and Charlie Barksdale, were sharecroppers. David was one of 13 children. In 1957, the Barksdale family decided to move to Chicago. Their story was very similar to most African Americans who eventually migrate to the North. Lance Williams, who wrote about David Barksdale in his book King David and Boss Daily, told WBEZ. His father was chased away because of a conflict that he had with a white man in Salis, Miss. Had to leave under the threat of losing his life, ended up in Chicago, and then eventually saved up enough money to bring his family to Chicago. According to Southside Weekly, Barks experienced a rough and impoverished childhood. Displaced to Inglewood on the city's south side during Chicago's urban renewal projects, which served to segregate the city's black and white populations, Barksdale soon became caught up in gang life by the age of 13. At 14 years old, Barksdale was kicked out of his house by his father for being disobedient. During his time away from home, Barksdale became further involved with Chicago's street gangs. Meanwhile, as the number of impoverished black people in the neighborhood grew, so did police presence there. Barksdale was reportedly targeted by the Chicago Police Department and arrested multiple times, though he was never charged with a felony. In response to a growing number of racially motivated attacks in the area, and realizing that white politicians were not going to intervene on their behalf, Barksdale and his friends formed a neighborhood group called the 65th Street Boys to defend themselves from white gangs.